All right, good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's doing great on this Wednesday. Who's ready to talk a little bit about working effectively in remote teams? So we've got a great program lined up today. Just want to give you a couple of quick housekeeping things. Today's webinar is brought to you by UNC Charlotte's Office of Continuing Ed. We deliver 1- and 2-day professional development programs, and we currently have a little over about 26 different certificate programs, everything from project and process management, human resources, paralegal, medical coding, you name it, we just about have it. So we're excited to have everybody here today. In addition, we also deliver corporate and custom training. So if you've been to any of the other webinars or enjoyed today's webinar and would like to talk to us a little bit about bringing it on site to your organization, we can customize it and make it specific to your organization's specific needs. So, as with anything else, with any webinar, there are a couple of rules of engagement. Today's webinar will be 45 minutes, and then we will have about 15 minutes of question and answer afterwards. So hopefully you'll stay around and stick around and listen to some of the questions that are out there. Because we have so many individuals on the webinar today, we've actually muted your video and your mic, but we've got the chat box, so we've got a couple of other interactive things. So we've got lots of ways for you to stay engaged. So in addition, within probably about 24 hours, you are going to get an email, and that email will actually include a recording of today's webinar. It's going to include also an evaluation. Let us know what you liked about today's session, some of the skills that you're going to take back. And that evaluation only takes about 5 minutes or so. So really would appreciate your feedback. And then finally, in this email, we're going to provide you with lots of bonus content, things that you can take back and continue your journey with regard to working in virtual teams. All right, so today, since March, it's been a sudden transition to work remotely for a lot of people around the U.S. and indeed actually around the world. And for a lot of people, they're actually still adjusting. In this webinar, we're actually going to talk about some of the benefits and the challenges of working on a remote team. We're also going to talk about some of the ways to unify and build trust within your teams. And then finally, we're going to talk about some specific strategies to help you work more efficiently with your virtual teams. All right, so sound like a plan? If so, give me a green check mark and let me know if you're ready to roll. All right, oh, lots of green check marks coming in. Couple, there we go, there we go. All right, so let's do this thing. All right, so I always like to kind of get an idea of who's in the audience. And I wanted to see, prior to COVID, were you working in a team? Again, give me a green check mark if you were, and an X if you weren't. So let's see. Okay. Lots of, a little bit of both, few check marks. All right, few X's, just check marks. Those are coming in. All right, it looks like it may be maybe half and half with the responses that we're getting. Okay, a lot more coming in. A lot of check marks, a lot of X's. Okay. All right. What's interesting is that in early April 2020, earlier this year, MIT did a survey of 25,000 American workers and found that about 34% of those who had been employed, only about 4 weeks earlier so that they're actually working from home. And so what we're finding is, there's been obviously a big influx with the stay-at-home order, and of course that's lightening up a little bit now, and people are looking and thinking about, okay, how do we go back to the office? So let's take it a step further. I'm going to clear our responses here. And are you currently working on a remote team? Now, this is a little bit different. So the first question was prior to, were you working? And the question now is, are you? So let's see what everybody's saying here. Okay. So I'm seeing a lot more green check marks. Obviously, the way that we are working has, in fact, changed. And part of the reason for this webinar is to help us kind of move into that transition mode. For some of us, obviously, we've been working at home since March, and some of you may be like, no, I'm expert on everything. So what I wanted to share quickly was a quick video, and I'm going to ask everybody to hold your responses from here on out. All right?
Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Are we waiting on anyone? Can everyone see my screen? Oh, there we go. Welcome to my kitchen. Look at your little cat. His wife's also working from home, so he's just hopping into their closet. Oh, sorry. I think you're muted. I think you're on mute. I think you're muted. You're on mute. Your backyard is gorgeous. Yeah, I should get a dog. You look so nice. Why? What was that? What was that? What was that? My internet is being so weird today. Standing desk, Dropbox, screen share, soft pants, ergonomic, active sitting, Google Sheets. It's actually designed to wobble like this. Look at this view. Keeps me moving. I can hear literally every single word my neighbor says. Oh, lost you for a sec. Let me just slack you a paper doc. Gotta stay hydrated. Definitely. 100%. That's the only way we're gonna drive cross-functional alignment, Oh, we got a visitor. What was that? It works. And now I'm talking to myself.
The first time I watched this video, and my good friend Nicole sent it over to me, she actually delivered our Embracing and Managing Change webinar that we had earlier a few weeks ago. But every time I watch this, I crack up because, it is so true. Can anybody relate to this video? I'm looking at the chat box. Too funny. Yeah, can you please send me the link to this video? Absolutely. Yeah, and I, if you look at the comments, even on Twitter, there was a couple of comments. Is it too soon to notate this as PTSD? And I was like, yeah. I mean, she goes, oh, you look so nice. Why? So I just thought we'd start off with something funny, and I'm sure everybody at some point has said, you're on mute. I can't hear you. Oh, look at your kitchen. So thought we'd start with something fun. All right, so COVID-19 may yet do what years of advocacy have actually failed to do, and that is to make telework a benefit available to more than just a relative handful of U.S. workers. According to the 2019 National Compensation Survey, from the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics, only about 7% of civilian workers in the U.S., or roughly about 9.8 million of the nation's approximately 140 million civilian workers, have access to flexible workplace benefit or the ability to telework. Now, one thing I do want to clarify by what I mean when I say civilian workforce, the federal government, which is the nation's largest single employer, has about 2.9 million civilian workers, and those individuals were not included in this survey. So what's interesting is that 7%, and again, all of this information is pre-COVID, only had access to this telework. These individuals that do work from home are what we call more like knowledge workers and people who do most of their work on computers. Around a quarter of these people are in management and business and financial sectors or occupations. And then about 14% are in professional and related workers such as like lawyers, software designers, scientists, engineers, and that sort of thing. So, of course, again, this is pre-COVID, so I'm confident in saying that that number has gone up significantly. And there's a lot of speculation about what work will look like after COVID, but of course, we don't have time to go down that path today. So, does this number surprise you? I have to admit that when I saw that 7%, I thought it would be much higher. So I was a little bit kind of surprised by that. But what's interesting is that there are some significant trends in remote work growth. So growth in remote work over the last 5 years has actually grown about 44%. And actually over the last 15 years, it's actually grown 159%. So what we see is that there is a trajectory for continued growth in, for working remotely. And again, I think COVID just is going to exacerbate that and make that projection, even higher. So let's talk about some of the benefits of working from home. So there's several things that we can say, okay, are positive things about working from home. One thing, remote work attracts and retains talent. So using the chat box, answer this question. What percentage of U.S. workers do you think would turn down a job that didn't offer flexible working? So what percentage? 12%, okay. 20, 62, 80, 25, 33, 65, 40, 10%, 10%, 0, what? Okay, 4%, 5%, 8%. All right, we are all over the board here, anywhere from 0 to, there's a 90%. So a couple more coming in. What's interesting is that that 80%, the answer is 80%. I think we had a couple people say 80%. The answer is 80%, and it's so important to these individuals that more than a third of them said they would prioritize such arrangements over having a more prestigious role. And in another survey, more than 3/4 cited having that flexibility, and because remote work, it's really one of the most effective non-monetary ways to retain employees. Now, to me, again, I see a couple of people going, wow, what? Are you kidding? To me, this number was high, but I think we are seeing that there's that ability to work home. That's been proven with COVID. And so I think people are at a point where they're like, hey, if it's available, I really want it. And, we're going to talk about some other benefits and some of the challenges, but for some individuals, having that ability to work at home is more important than money. It's more important than a title. It gives them the flexibility that they're looking for. So, all right, here's another statistic. Not only does the option to work remotely get employees in the door, it actually keeps them there. In a Stanford University study, employers who offered a work from home option actually had employee turnover rates fall by 50%. 50%. So one of the biggest headaches for organizations is losing the employees that make them tick, obviously. So it's important to make the most of the advantages that you do have. And while we see the endless meetings and the outdated workplace practices that are still really common in most organizations, and they keep those workers firmly tied to their desk, employees really want that agility and that entrepreneurial spirit of a small business. And by having the ability to work remotely, it gives them that freedom that they crave. So, for some people, home working can give parents with children's child care responsibilities the flexibility they need, while other workers can benefit from enhanced work-life balance. And both of these factors play a crucial part in employee retention. So I want to go back and say 50%. I mean, that's huge. I hope that the employers that are on here today are listening to this and are aware of the positives. So the bottom line is the remote work is good for business. 85% of businesses confirm productivity has increased in their company because of greater flexibility among remote workers. So take a look at this guy. I mean, he is taking names, kicking butt, and getting things done. Most of the rest of us that are working at home, we're doing it in our yoga pants or shorts. But productivity does go up. And there are study after study after study that shows, remote work does impact productivity. For some people, particularly introverts, it takes them away from some of the office gossip and all the other chit-chat and the other things that go on within an office. Some people just do a better job of focusing in a quiet environment. You're able to chunk out larger sections of time to work on projects or whatever it might be. So having that flexibility actually can make your employees more productive. Now, another benefit is that it does improve that work-life balance. Now, I'm kind of on the fence on this one. And I've talked to several other folks that are like, oh my God, since COVID, I'm like, I have no balance. I can't find the happy medium between the two. And it can be challenging, but many remote jobs also come with flexible scheduling, which means that workers can start and end their day as they choose, as long as their work is done and it's completed and it leads to strong outcomes. So this control over your work schedule can be invaluable when it comes to attending the needs of your personal life. And whether it's balancing school schedules, medical appointments, errands, attending an online fitness class in the morning, or even being home, when a contractor is going to be there, it really it's a perk that's easy to give. So what we're finding is that remote flexible workers tend to be happier and more loyal employees, in part because working from home has been shown to lower stress, provide more time for hobbies and interests, and actually improve personal relationships, among other things. So in addition to personal health and well-being, coworker and manager relationships can be more positive without the distractions and politics that come along with an in-office job. So, one of the things with this work-life balance is, it actually can lead to better health in a variety of ways, because there's more time for physical activity. There's the ability to eat healthier, the ability to recover from an illness or surgery at home. It's, less exposure to other illnesses, ease of caring for a health issue or a disability. So there are lots of things about working remotely that actually can help with your health. So one of the things I found interesting was, I remember right after we started working from home, my boss was talking about using his commute time to go and grill dinner for his family. And I was like, well, what time is dinner? But, he was using that commute time in a productive way. And obviously something grilled is much healthier than, eating, something fried or what have you. So maybe those are, that does, all of these things play into improving, that work-life balance. Now I'm looking at some of the comments in the chat box, and these are all terrific. Everybody's saying have a designated space where you can shut the door and turn off the lights at the end of the day. Investing in equipment to mimic your office space is absolutely critical to your success. I agree 100%. You must have a designated workspace, and that's important. It's funny, the door that you see in the shot behind me, that actually goes right into my kitchen, which is really way too close for me. But this is now my office, and on the other side of the door, I have if the door is closed, it's a do not disturb. Occasionally, if things get loud in the kitchen, I'll put another sign out there. Seriously, do not disturb. So trying to find that balance between work and your life, it sometimes can be a struggle, but for the most part, the pros definitely outweigh the cons. The other thing that's a positive is this location independence. And this is a considerable benefit of working from home is, having access to a broader range of job opportunities that aren't limited by geographic location. And this can be especially helpful for job seekers that are living in rural communities or small towns where they may have trouble finding local positions. Having no job set location means that pre-pandemic, fully remote workers could also, travel and live as digital nomads while still having a meaningful career. And so what we're finding is that even from an employer standpoint, this is a huge perk because it gives them access to a wider pool of applicants. And this is particularly important in areas like tech or where there are shortages in certain professions or skill shortages in certain occupations. So that's a huge perk right there. Of course, working remotely also reduces stressful commutes. I can honestly say there's never been a traffic jam in the hallway from my bedroom to the dining room in the morning. And here's an interesting statistic for you. Did you know that the average one-way commuting time in the U.S. is 27.1 minutes? That's almost an hour out of each day spent getting to and from work. And over time, that actually adds up. According to the Auto Insurance Center, commuters spend about 100 hours commuting and 41 hours stuck in traffic each year. But what we find is that, even wasting time commuting is just one of the downsides of getting to and from work. More than 30 minutes of daily one-way commuting is associated with increased levels of stress and anxiety, and research that shows that commuting even 10 miles to work each day is associated with health issues like higher cholesterol, elevated blood sugar, increased risk of depression. So ditching the commute helps you support your mental and your physical health. And of course, the time savings can allow you to focus on priorities outside of work, like getting extra sleep in the morning, spending more time with family, or getting in a workout, or eating a healthy breakfast. So, but if you really think about it, think about how this can give a boost to your business too. The health and well-being of your workforce actually has proven links to productivity, like we just talked about, and a reduction in absenteeism. So, sometimes just getting out of bed, getting dressed, and having to spend the extra time to get there, it just takes a lot out of it. But if you're able to work remotely, it takes that out of the equation. So what we find, too, is that there is money savings, not only from an employee standpoint, but also from an employer standpoint as well. Full-time commuters can actually save up to about $4,000 each year. And part of that is, they're spending less on a variety of costs, commuting, such as like gas and public transit, tolls, parking, upkeep, all of that good stuff. And then you got to think about food cost. How many times do you go out and buy, a $4 or $5 coffee, or lunches out at the office? There's also tax breaks, and, you've got to look nice when you show up. You can't show up in yoga pants every day to the office. So, even that professional clothing upkeep can add up. And, I don't know about you guys, but $4,000 is a lot of money, and, that's almost like a pay raise. But if you look at it from the opposite side, from an employer standpoint, according to Global Workplace Analytics, a typical company could save around $11,000 per year for every employee who works at home at least some of the time. Okay, let that sink in. Employers can save $11,000 per year for every employee. So what that means is that, during the COVID-19 pandemic, U.S. employers are saving over $30 billion per day by allowing employees to work from home. $30 billion. So this major economic benefit of a remote work could continue as more continues, make it, a long-term situation. So now, obviously, office space is expensive. Again, an organization can, when they rent space, they can claim some of the cost back as part of their capital allowance, but it's also, still likely to be one of the biggest fixed costs their business has. So if you're able to, allow your employees, even if they want to come in 2 or 3 times a day, 2 or 3 times a week, they can hot seat with other employers, and then, or hot desk with other employers, and that again can reduce the amount of office space that you need. Now, there we go, lowers cost. All right. So one of the things that we find is that there is a positive environmental impact with having more remote workers. The 3.9 million employees who work from home at least half time reduce greenhouse gas emissions by the equivalent of taking more than 600,000 cars off the road for an entire year. And that's according to the state of telecommuting and the U.S. Employee Workforce Report. A whopping 7.8 billion vehicle miles aren't traveled each year for those who work at least part-time from home. And so, 3 million tons of greenhouse gases are avoided, and there's an oil savings of $390 million. So by making environmentally sound choices like opting to use, less paper and monitoring their air conditioning, heating, and lighting, remote workers actually have the same potential impact on air quality as planting an entire forest of 91 million trees. If you go online and Google pollution during COVID or something of that nature, you will see some of the most amazing pictures, particularly like New Delhi and New York and Los Angeles. Just the pollution on the before and after is amazing. And there's all kind of articles out there about how the earth is beginning to sort of repair itself and heal now that there are fewer cars on the road. All right, so I have painted a very rosy picture of, the benefits of working remotely, but there are some challenges of working in remote teams too. So let's take a look at those. Probably the biggest challenge is that feeling of isolation. We have to recognize working at a distance presents new challenges that require new mindsets and honestly new skill sets. we're human and we crave those interactions with other humans. So loneliness is probably one of the most common complaints about remote work, with employees missing that informal social interaction of an office setting. So think about it, when you were in the office, how many times did you bump into a colleague in the hallway or in the break room or the bathroom, and you strike up an informal conversation with them? I mean, all of us have done that at some point. So, and you might have found out something about, that person that you didn't already know. People miss that when they work remotely. So one of the things that we're finding is that sometimes the added time and effort that's needed to locate information is also one of those things that is tough for coworkers. Even getting answers to what seem like simple questions can feel like a large obstacle to a worker that's based at home. So, the other thing is that remote teams often don't take the time to invest in relationships. They are much more quick to focus on the task. And so as a result, one of the things that we see is that, sometimes there is that lack of trust simply because you don't have that connection with these individuals. And we're going to talk about some of the strategies to help overcome this. Technology is obviously, can be a challenge as well. It doesn't always work the way we want it to. We made it funny with Alexis Gay's, video, but you're right, technology, and there are individuals like myself who have sort of the technophobia, who are a little bit afraid of technology, and are not that great at it. But thankfully, I have an awesome set of colleagues that have been terrific in helping me through some of the technology challenges that I have. So, technology in and of itself, can be a challenge working on a remote team. And don't even get me started talking about bandwidth and having to deal with my internet provider Spectrum. If there's anybody on Spectrum on today's webinar, call me. So, all right. So many distractions. These are just a few of the things that can distract us while we're working at home, and that can be a challenge as well. My son was like, "Mom, are you going to try to pass that off as our refrigerator?" And I was like, "Nah, the people that know me know it's not quite that organized, nor is it filled with fruit." But these are distractions that are a part of working from home, and they can impact our ability to get things done, or if that can impact our productivity. And then sometimes it even adds to our stress. You got kids yelling at you on this side, and they need help with this, and and you're torn. So there are some distractions, and that can be a challenge. Other challenges, time zones. For remote teams, you might have someone working on the West Coast, and so you might have to adjust your time frame so that you can communicate with them on a time that works for both of you. And even languages, I have found that with the use of technology, sometimes my Southern accent gets amplified, and people don't know what I'm saying. So languages, not even as if you're working on a global remote team, obviously there are language barriers there, but even accents and dialects and those things can impact, the ability to work with others as well. So I love it, love it, love it. All right. So I want to stop here. In the chat box, what's been your biggest challenge of working on a remote team? Biggest challenge? Okay, somebody told me on the survey I talked too fast. Yes, I have that problem too. Body language gaps, team meeting isolation. Your boss calls you every day. Somebody said showering daily. Connectivity, missing that face-to-face. Gosh, yep, too much email. Some collaborative efforts have gone sideways. Some people just miss, I love this, some people just miss seeing their colleagues. Picking up on body language when the team doesn't show their video. Love that. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Not being able to have informal meetings. Yes, that's one of the things, you know, with when I was in the office, we have a big cube farm, for lack of a better word, and I'd go pop over to talk with somebody, you know, about what they're doing with this or that, and I kind of miss that. Somebody else said spectrum. Yes. So, you know, having that more structured routine, yeah, it's easy to get too flexible. Balance your mom and manager role at the same time. Absolutely. All right, so I'm seeing a lot of people that are irritated with spectrum, so that makes me feel better. Questioning if I'm working the same as if I would in the office. Dog playing with squeaky toys while on a web meeting. Okay, Tamara, I'm not sure if that's what you were doing or someone else was doing that. But yeah, it's, you know, all of these things they're challenges, and we've had to learn how to pivot and adjust, and, you know, and honestly, you know, I've eaten a lot of humble pie recently because I'm like, I don't know how to do this, or can you share with me how you did that, or, you know, sometimes it's just, you know, calling somebody and making that extra effort. So, you know, challenging, yeah, all of these. I've related to almost, you know, all of these. I love this. Love it, love it, love it. All right, so here are some strategies to help you work, you know, more effectively on a remote team and continue to move forward. So I want you to think about this. Keep in mind that collaboration still exists in our teams. It just looks a little bit different. Number one strategy, communicate, 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 communicate by whatever means you can. I am old, and I will pick up the phone and I will call you in a minute. Some people don't like to be called, you know, but whatever means that you've got accessible to you and to your team members, utilize those. Now that we use Google Hangout or Google Meet, and so you know, I've used that for lots of new meetings, and I love that because, you know, that is one of the things where you can see people on video. Somebody else mentioned, you know, where they don't have their video showing, and so it's obviously you can't read body language. So learning to communicate with others, and, you know, Cecil LaRoe, who is a professor at Carnegie Mellon, she said, I believe in the human element becomes much more important when it's removed. We need to work harder at and be more explicit about communicating emotions and understanding. And so, you know, however you communicate, I would say, you know, almost exaggerate it. I'm fortunate that a lot of the individuals that I work with, I've worked with for a very long time. And so then we have a 30-minute meeting every day, and we kind of check in and see how everybody's doing and projects, and, you know, handle questions and challenges that each of us have. And if something is brought up, and so you can just tell by their facial expressions, that someone is, you know, oh, whoa, why'd you say that? Or that doesn't sound right, or whatever it might be. So communicate, communicate, communicate. I can't stress that enough. And I love this quote from Mark Sanborn. He's a best-selling author of the books The Fred Factor and You Don't Need a Title to Be a Leader. In teamwork, silence isn't golden. It's deadly. So again, find that way to make sure that everyone's working with each other, that they're communicating. So, for a team to function effectively, there's got to be those open channels of communication. And it's really a sign that something is chronically wrong with a team when members don't feel like that they can, voice their concerns or express disagreements or, offer suggestions. So make sure that everybody on your team knows that dialogue is always welcome. All right, use more visual communication. I am a very visual person. So, when you're trying to explain a process or an idea, I wave my hands around a lot, as you guys may have noticed. I'm doing better, though. I haven't knocked my laptop off my stand here today, so that's good. But, when I'm communicating, sometimes this doesn't always translate to remote work. So visuals can be the solution. If you're presenting ideas in person, it's a lot more than just a slide deck. You can feel the energy in the room. You can feel the confidence in your voice. And even how many people are present can make a huge difference in how your presentation is received. But when you're presenting online, it's harder to convey that energy. Instead, focus on, beautifully designed, eye-catching visuals. So, make sure that you pick a crisp layout with a strong call to action, use headers, dramatic images, even infographics. And, don't be afraid to use a splash of color, but of course, don't go overboard and make it look like, Rainbow Pony threw up on it. But visuals can be huge. All right, number 2, make the most out of every video call or meeting. For a lot of us, we have a small window of opportunity to talk with the folks on our team. So if you are on a video call, make sure that you're prepared, that you know what is the expectations are for that meeting. If you are meeting one-on-one with another colleague, make sure you've got your questions ready or things that you want to discuss. And then that way you can just go straight down the checklist. So, being prepared actually will make a big difference. Number 3, set clear deadlines and expectations. And this kind of ties into a little bit about what we talked about last week. And if you went back and watched the TED Talk from David Allen that was included in last week's bonus content, you heard David Allen say, if you don't pay attention to what has your attention, it will take more of your attention than it deserves. And that is so true. You will go down a rabbit hole, and before you know it, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, it's gone. So make sure that you have those clear deadlines and outline your expectations for your team. It's easy to be lured into procrastination. I think somebody mentioned that in the chat box just a little bit ago, but avoid those possible distractions and making sure that, if you've got a task list or, whatever it might be, whatever method you use, make sure that those expectations are set. In continuing ed, unless otherwise stated, we have the expectations that we're going to be online with a good internet connection and available, throughout office hours when we choose to work. So, making sure that everybody's on the same page with how people are working remotely. All right, so this is number 4, check in with one another. We have to take care of each other. It's important for teams to share moments of fun at appropriate times or, start their own rituals like, a quick warm-up dance or unwind and, to help you unwind and spark some creativity. So, we still have a strong desire to connect. And we are social beings and we still need each other. I wanted to introduce you to Kronk. This is my colleague, Christy Wilson, that works in our office. She is amazing. She adopted Kronk right before COVID, and that is a picture of him sitting on their couch at 7 weeks, and then this is at 4 months. And she sent this out to everybody in our department on Monday. Monday was kind of dreary, if you noticed, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, he's grown so much!" It was just a great way for all of us to connect over Kronk. Of course, we're saying that whenever we are back in the office, for sure, he's going to actually have to come in and be like a therapy dog or something for us. So we're trying to work out the details with that. But yeah, I mean, check in with one another. Find out how you're doing. You don't have to connect with your teammates just to always talk about work. Find fun ways to connect. And here's one example. If you were a vegetable, what kind would you be? And so, one of the things that we're going to see in the bonus content is a list of icebreakers to do with remote teams. And if you want to answer this in the chat box, feel free. We actually did this with our team, and I was like, I'd be a pumpkin because I'm kind of round, and then I was corrected, and I found out that a pumpkin is actually a fruit because it has seeds. So don't list pumpkin. But, so this is just, again, another fun way to make that connection with your team. Number 5, trust your staff and your coworkers. You can't work effectively with a remote team unless you trust them. Remote workers aren't present in the office, so it can be a lot harder to check in with them on an ad hoc basis. So, micromanaging via email is frustrating for everyone. Don't do it. Instead, hire people that you can trust and get the job done, and allow them to, room to do their job. For a lot of folks, it's not anymore about focusing on the task, but focusing on the outcomes. I want to repeat that. Don't focus on the task, but rather focus on the outcomes. Are they getting their jobs done? So, the last strategy is take a few minutes each hour for a mental break. Nobody, let's face it, let's keep it real. Nobody regularly works 8 hours straight without any kind of break. Not even in the office. People talk to each other. They drop a joke here or there. They make themselves coffee, grab a snack, or just call a friend, whatever it might be. But take just a few minutes, no more than 10 minutes, and do something to stretch your legs. We've talked a little bit about this in some of the other webinars. Declutter your office. Call your mom. I don't know if, for some of you may not be able to get off the phone with them in 10 minutes or more, or 10 minutes or less, but, do something to keep your mental sanity, top notch. So anything's fine, again, as long as it doesn't exceed about 10 minutes. So this is a quick picture of some of the folks in Continuing Ed. I want to give a shout out to them, to the team at UNC Charlotte. I am fortunate that I work with some amazing colleagues. So whoop to my CE folks that are out there today. All right, so I want to open up the chat box now for questions. You can write your questions in there, and while you're doing that, I'm actually going to a couple other housekeeping things that I wanted to touch base with you, but let me hear your questions. And then, of course, we've only got 2 more webinars left. I can't believe it. We started with 8, and there's only 2 left. If you happen to miss one, or you know of a colleague that might be interested in hearing one of the other ones, you can always go out to the link that's on this slide, continuinged.uncc.edu/webinars, and all of the recordings are out there. All you have to do is click on the green course title, and that recording will come up. And of course, if you have not registered for the last two, we'd love to have you join us. Rob Dibble, who spoke with us last week on priority planning, he's going to be back next week for the power of personality. And then I'll be back for our final one on building a positive work environment. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, if you liked this course or any of the other webinars that we've done, or are interested in having any of our other classes or programs or certificates brought on site, let me know. Shoot me an email, and I'm going to give you my connection information in just a minute. But with corporate custom training, our logo is unleashing potential and creating impact, and that's really our goal. We want to make sure that we're helping your workforce be the best version of themselves. And finally, let's stay connected. I am on LinkedIn, Twitter, and our Continue Ed department is also on Facebook. Our marketing manager does a phenomenal job of keeping those 3 sites updated, and he's always got really cool and interesting articles and all kind of different things. Just a reminder too, in the email that you're going to get, there is a link for an evaluation. Fill that out. And then also in that email, there is a space for you to click on our newsletter. It comes out quarterly. Definitely take the time to register for that. Again, we have lots of great info on it. All right, at this time, let me flip over and see what kind of questions you guys have. All right. Let's see. All right, so hops and barley. Is that a fruit or is that a vegetable? Okay, Robert, I'm gonna have to look that one up. I think you're messing with me. Broccoli, because I haven't had a haircut since February. Oh wow, Beth, way to go. All right, but just think about all the money that you're saving, Beth. Tomato, because of fruit and masquerading as a veggie. I like that. Let's see. Of course, everybody's talking about their vegetable. Let me flip back here. Okay. All right. So thank you, Sherman. We are a good-looking team. Okay, how do you get bonus content? Janella, in the email that you're going to get within 24 hours, all of that content is in that email. So you can access that there. All right, so you're waiting for the gag reel. Okay, do you have any ideas to monitor your staff's work while working remotely? Excuse me, Penny, that's a great question. Okay, so one of the things that I talked about earlier was not necessarily focusing on the task, but rather the outcome. I would suggest maybe, I don't know if you have one-on-ones with your folks, maybe it's once a week or however often it is, but touching base with them on certain projects. And then again, this goes back to setting those deadlines and setting expectations. What's interesting is that, like with this, and you guys probably already know this, but with WebEx, at the end of today's session, I actually get a report that shows everybody that showed up, and it tells me what time they came in to the webinar and what time they leave. And there's also it shows a percentage of their activity. So if somebody was really active and, did all the polls and did all the chat boxes and, that sort of thing, it actually will show me a certain percentage. So if you, and again, I am not technologically savvy. I know that there are some ways that companies can monitor the number of how long you're on email, the number of emails that you're sending, and that sort of thing. And from a technological standpoint, those things are available. I don't know that much about them, but what I would suggest is just having those open conversations with your colleagues and your staff and saying, okay, where are you getting, periodic updates, and just staying in touch with them, not micromanaging, because as we talked about earlier, that actually can take you in the opposite direction. But having those open conversations can be huge. Were software options discussed like Basecamp for remote teams? Peter, that's a great question too. And again, that's not my forte. There are so many technology platforms that are out there that you can use software options. In the funny video that we watched, she was like, oh, I'll Slack you a document, blah, blah, blah. There's Microsoft Teams, there's, Google Hangouts. I mean, there's just all these things that you can use to help you more proficient. You know what, Peter? I will research that, and I will try to come up with something that I can share with everybody. Terry, these webinars have been a positive during my work from home. Thank you. I appreciate those comments. It sounds like we might be hitting the mark here, and, we're trying to infuse a little bit of fun and a lot of good content so that, it's hard working from home. We're just trying to give back to the business community. So workplace has been fun at work for collaboration. It's kind of like Facebook. I like that too. I like that. All right, how do you get the old timers to be in favor of teleworking? Oh, that's a great one. I guess I would consider, well, I'm not quite an old timer. Age-wise I am, but mentally I'm probably the equivalent of like a 12-year-old. But how do you get old timers? Part of it is just to kind of show them the benefits. And I know that that's really hard for folks that have, gotten up every morning and had their coffee and their toast, gotten in their car and driven to their office or workspace or facility or wherever it is every day for the last 20 or 30 or 40, 50 years. But if you can show them that, hey, working from home, it can be just as rewarding. So show them the benefits. And then, again, having those conversations and asking them, what is it about working from home that maybe scares them or gives them a little bit of heartburn, and then try to help them overcome those. And, be patient with these individuals. It takes them a little bit of time to get used to all the technology or working from home or whatever it might be. But definitely have those conversations and, focusing not strictly, but primarily on the benefits to them. All right. Let's see. You can use IM to see if employees are working or out to lunch or away from their computer. Camera, that's another great one. I have had several people with our IM, of course it's got the video with it too, and there's been a couple of times when people have called and I'm stuffing my face with lunch or whatever, and I'm like, hey, you want to part of my peanut butter sandwich? So yeah, I wouldn't say do that too much though, because if you pop in too much, they might be working on a project or something else that really needs them to focus. So in some cases, the IM has, capabilities where it does show that they are, unavailable, and be respectful of that. But that's a great suggestion. What does UNC use for monitoring major gift officers' activity? Chrissy, I don't know that question. I don't know the answer to that question. But maybe you and I can talk offline about that, about your curiosity with that. So love it. Scheduled check-ins. These are some great, suggestions. Can you share the info on David Allen talk you referenced? Yeah, Mike, actually, if you go to, if you just Google David Allen TED Talk, he's got one on there. It's about stress-free workplace productivity. But yes, I've got your No, I don't have. Yes, I do have your email. I can send that to you as well. All right. Keep calling them old timers. That should do it. Robert, I love your sense of humor. You're as wacky as I am. Yeah, definitely don't call them old timers, and I know that you're not, but definitely, again, go back and have those conversations. Love it. Yeah, let's see. What else? I'm an old timer. Never believed it would work until I did and realized how much it's helped me. So Kimberly, I mean, there you go. Kimberly speaks for all the old timers. You just, it's like anything else. Change is hard, and we did a whole webinar on change. But just give it a try. Try it out and see what happens. It might be like Mikey. You might like it. So, all right. We are at 2:01. I actually went over, and I apologize for that. I'll try to gather the rest of these questions and send out some additional information on that. But again, thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. I had a blast. I hope that you did as well. And we will see you next Wednesday, 1 o'clock, same bat channel. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.